Shop smart, shop S-Mart.
Lady, I'm afraid I'm going to have to ask you to leave the store.
Who the hell are you?
Name's Ash.
This is my boomstick.
So hi, welcome to Binge Buddies. Deadites in aisle 3. I'm gonna get it right out of the gate. Me, your host, as always, Brian Dressel. With me, as always, any nicknames. I cannot figure out what to do for nicknames, so I'm just gonna do it on the air because it's easier for me. But we have Matt Zombie Dog Dites, Ryan Lutens, and Joel DeWitt. And what do you guys think we should do for nicknames on this one? I have no idea. I couldn't figure it out. I was also dealing with a lot of audio issues this morning that got in my way that I'd usually be looking for nicknames.
Famous books.
Other Sam Raimi films.
There's only like 10. That's not gonna we got
Other Sam Raimi characters.
Ways to dismember someone.
Okay, again, we got a long series. All of the Evil Dead movies and all of Ash of the Evil Dead. Like dismember, keep dismembering. That's not that interesting.
You can chop, you can slice, you can.
Bruce Campbell rolls.
Yeah. Bruce Campbell rolls. That's a possibility.
I mean, he's been in a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff.
Bruce's, but there's not that many famous Bruces. We get like Springsteen and Batman, and then I'm out.
Yeah,
Bruce the Shark.
Oh yeah, I guess we got a shark. So we got one episode worth. All right,
Bruce Campbell roles could be quite good though, because I think some of his character names are just like really strange as well. Like he's been like some of the B movies that he's been in, and then there's like
wrestling announcer from Spider-Man.
Yeah. Okay. No.
Yeah.
I think we might have a good one here.
Maitre D from Spider-Man 3.
I'm killing it.
So starting next week, we will have famous Bruce Campbell roles, or just any Bruce Campbell roles, and those will be our nicknames. I like this. This will work. I don't know Bruce Campbell's repertoire nearly well enough to be able to guess the movie based on the name, but maybe you guys will.
I think there'll be some that I'll be able to guess, and some of them will just be like, I've never seen that.
Bill! I don't know who Bill is. All right, cool. I like this. Well, here we are. We're starting another horror franchise. This one's a little different than ones we've done in the past because there's usually not a TV show we have to do in the middle or near end. So we have 4 movies that we're covering, which is The Evil Dead, The Evil Dead 2, Army of Darkness, Evil Dead, and then we're doing all of Ash vs. The Evil Dead, and then we're coming back for the very tail end with Evil Dead Rise. So we'll cover everything Evil Dead out, except for it's in movie and TVs. We're not going to do any comics or anything like that, even though they are very cool.
And then at that time, the new one might be out.
Was that coming out this year? I thought it was next year.
Next year.
No, if it's next year, then no. We'll be done this year. Like because we're still going to double up episodes like we did for A Good Place. We'll do 2 at a time, so we'll still get through it in a reasonable fashion. But we're going to be doing nothing but Evil Dead for a while. And thanks again to Ryan, who mostly came up with the name for this one for Deadites on aisle 3.
It was all me.
We workshopped it a little bit, but it definitely started with you. I'm still giving you credit, man.
Thanks, man.
We focus grouped.
Yeah, we
really
did.
did.
There was a lot of people who liked aisle 2. There was a few people who liked aisle 6. Like, we were like, no, but 3 is a good.
I knew we had someone trying to argue between in aisle 3 or on aisle 3. I'm like, okay, if this is where we're at, we got a good title. We've got to win. Arguing over a letter.
I no oh
So many vowels.
A-E-I-O-U.
All right, so as we like to do when we start a new show, at least sometimes we do it. How familiar are we all with this franchise? I've watched all the movies many times, and I watched the majority of the show, but I never finished it because I feel like there's a break in between seasons, and then I just never got back to it. But that's where I'm at. And then when I figured out we're doing this, I never went back to the show because I just want to watch it in real time. But that's where I'm at, and I love the hell out of Evil Dead. I love it. So that's
I own every movie. I own all 3 seasons. I've watched it. On my other show, it's Front Row Flashbacks, so I wanted to incorporate horror and an 80s movie, and so my character is based on Ash. I don't think I like this. Yeah, I love this. I love this. It's fun.
I've seen the original trilogy bunch of times. I've owned them on DVD, Blu-ray, and now 4K Blu-ray. I've got 2 out of 3 of them in steelbooks. The Evil Dead 2 steelbook, I sent a picture to the chat. The Evil Dead 2 steelbook is gorgeous. The Army of Darkness one is gorgeous as well, and I imported that one from America because Army of Darkness hasn't had a 4K release in the UK yet. Still hasn't. But the steelbook for that is gorgeous as well. It's like 4 discs as well because there's like all the different versions. Because that film has got so many different versions. As well. And I haven't actually seen the remake. I thought I had, but then I was sort of thinking the other day. I was like, I don't think I did actually see the remake. So, and I've not seen Evil Dead Rise either. But I've seen, I think, the first 2 seasons of Ash vs. Evil Dead. And then I never got 3 in for some reason. I think it was that sort of, there was a big break. And
I could be wrong, but that's what I thought it was. Because
I think it's when one of the strikes was happening, to be honest.
Okay. I broke in between 2 and 3 as well.
Yeah. And I loved the show, and it's one of those things where it's like, why did I never finish that? And then when we talked about doing this, like, okay, well, I'll do it as part of the podcast now, and it'd be nice to sort of go in with that sort of fresher eye as well. But yeah, I remember like watching the first episode of Ash vs. Evil Dead and just absolutely loving it. It was like going thinking, yes, this is what I've been waiting for.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I do kind of like, I get why they didn't go with this one because it wasn't actually the release ending, but I do wish they'd have gone with the followed on from the Apocalypse ending of Army of Darkness, which I think is the way better ending. It makes more sense of like, you know, how the films progress, like, you know, the Ash character just like it gets progressively worse for him. But yeah, okay, that is a big gap between them.
So the show had 2015 and 2016, and then 2017 took a year off. So that's the gap that they're referencing. And then the final season came out in 2018, which I think that's when they were deciding if they wanted to continue on or wrap it all up, or just stop it too. And so they decided to wrap it up with season 3.
Yeah, I think it was one of those cases where they basically said, we'll give you a 3rd season, but it'll be the last one.
Yeah.
I hope it is anyway. I hope it's not one of those ones where it ends on a cliffhanger. And you just
that'd be frustrating. But at least we get Evil Dead Rise, which, I mean, I don't want to spoil things, but it does try to bring in the remake, the original series, and Evil Dead Rise into like one universe, which is.
But even if it did end on a cliffhanger, I kind of feel like that would be fitting with.
I mean, it would
with this series, like.
The second movie ends on a cliffhanger. Like, they all end on a cliffhanger.
Yeah. The third movie, like 1992 that came out, we didn't get an actual follow-on from that until, 2015. Like, 23 years later. Like, you know, that's a long time to wait.
And then Joel, I don't think you've seen any of it, right?
I think a pretty common through line in the time that I've been here has been not seeing the movies or TV shows.
Let's put it this way: we would be more surprised if Joel has seen it.
I would have I knew his college roommates pretty well, and I would not have been surprised if they had turned on Evil Dead some night when they're like gathered around their hookah having a good time. That would have seemed
I can now see that for Joel.
No, so yeah, in my head, I had to replay what you said because I pictured a different hooker. Just all gathered around, just like, and then doing an incantation or something. Now I'm like, it's like a weird turn. Necto. Kalima.
No,
Kalima.
it was not as illicit as that. No. We were not very cool people. So.
You guys are pretty cool. You know, you had charcoal burns in your carpet.
That was fun trying to negotiate getting out of losing or paying on top of our security deposit for what we did to that apartment. Let's just say we were able to argue against the individual burn fees plus the cost of them replacing the carpet itself. That felt like a win.
I mean, it was. I mean, I went to that. You guys damn near burned your building down. So, you know, good job on not doing that. To you and all of them at that apartment. Richard,
was that the reason? You're like saying, well, at least we didn't burn the whole building down.
Could have been worse.
Portion of it.
All right, so let's get things started here. So we are starting with The Evil Dead. Evil Dead has a trailer. I'm not sure if it's the original trailer, but we're going to find out together. It might be like a buy this on Blu-ray now that it's available. I have no idea. I did not, like I said, I was having a lot of audio issues this morning and, doing the best I can here. So here we go. Let's share this. Trying to do this on one screen, which I'm not used to. It's okay.
On this trailer.
Sound, did it work?
Yeah, I can hear it.
This must be a me thing. I can hear echoes of it.
No, it was the woods themselves. They're alive.
Oh yeah, our favorite part right here.
This looks like an 80s trailer, to be fair, so this might be the original trailer.
It's really
I don't think they would show that. Maybe.
And a tub. You have to show the tub.
I mean, it probably was tough making something that would be compelling to the average user.
This one you put Beatles in the top.
I don't care what happens to her. She's your girlfriend. You take care of her.
I mean, this is telling you nothing about what's going on here. It's like, from this show, it looks like these two people are just butchering these women. This is like the kind of like grindhouse trailer that you'd get. Like this is not coming on before like Disney's Robin Hood.
The origins of the hamster dance right there at the start of the movie. Right.
I dig that trailer. That was pretty good.
Yeah.
It showed a lot of the violence, probably more than like if I saw that nowadays, I'm like, you gave everything away. But having seen it 1,000 times, I had a lot of fun watching that. I really like this movie.
Yeah, they didn't. To be fair, like they showed a little bit. They didn't show all of it. Like you didn't get all the blood just like being fired at Ash's face, and when there's the blood coming out of the pipes and all that sort of stuff as well.
But you did get the melty people at the end. Like that's where
yes,
I'm like, that's more of the giveaway for me because like that's to me where I'm like, is this finally too much? Like if I was watching this the first time, I'd be like, oh god, this just doesn't stop. Which to be fair, hello audio cord, is what this movie was known for at the time was for being relentless, and
it was NC-17.
Was it? I didn't know that.
I think it was unrated. I think they actually released it without a rating because I think they did the same with the second one as well. I think
IMDb has it at NC-17.
That might be a re-rating, maybe. I'm sure. Like one of them went out unrated. Like they just didn't submit it to the MPAA. And I have a feeling that it's more likely going to be the first one. I think.
Yeah.
I mean, it would make more sense because the second one we'll get into more next week, but definitely has more of a studio vibe to it. Not in I mean, it's still very ridiculous and crazy, but
there's a mixture of blood color. There's red and black to try and get around that sort of like red blood bad censor thing. Yeah. In the second one, whereas the first one it's just all red.
So I looked it up. It was rated X when it came out, and then it got
even better.
It got re-rated to NC-17.
Right. Fair enough.
I mean, to be fair, it is violent as hell and has one of the most graphic rape scenes in a movie. Except this time, it's a fucking tree doing it. Like, good lord, the movie does not hold back. And I mean that as a compliment for the most part. This is my first time watching the actual sexual assault in this movie in years. Usually, I skip over it just because I can't. It's just too much, man. Like.
It is one of those things where it just like when you watch the other series, it just kind of feel a little bit out of place now. Yeah, like it just kind of it's the one thing I would say in the film it just doesn't feel like it's very like kind of unnecessary.
It's not justified. It's not justified.
Right. Yeah, it's like I get where they're kind of coming from with like the evil being released is because it's like it's in Cheryl now, but you don't really need that.
No,
Like,
we
you
want to
don't-
see it in Cheryl's hand at that point when she does.
Yeah.
the talk. Like
Right,
so,
and
it's
when-
really not needed.
To go with that, too,
Yeah.
the second one does a better job of showing the forest alive. Like, you don't need to have it be that intense in the first movie if you're not going to do what you did in the second movie by showing the trees actually moving. If you see that in 2, or if we got that in 1, then it's a little bit more, okay, I see what you're doing. Like, the spirit is infecting everything. But no, it's, I'm going to come and I'm going to take the nearest thing that's available and just do what I'm going to do to you.
Yeah. I mean, I think the one thing that we have to be like, I mentioned in the group chat that we have to sort of at least mention this, is the fact that this film, like, we look at it now and it is like, it's bloody impressive. But the fact that it's made for, like, the production budget, I think, I did a bit of looking in and I couldn't find an exact
300
accurate thing.
300.
No, the production budget, how much they had to actually shoot with, was 90,000. They got more money for, like, post-production and everything, but they were actually shooting it for 90,000. And this is a bunch of people who, I think the oldest person on the entire crew was 21. Like, there's a lot of, like, 18, 19-year-olds. I think Sam Raimi had his 20th birthday whilst shooting. Like, and it's just... like, it's just, to me, that is incredible. Like,
Yep.
I can't imagine, like, you get a bunch of teenagers and, like, you know, a couple of people barely in their 20s together and come up with a film that is just that good. And it's cohesive, it makes sense, there is a through line. There's a story, like, there's an A to B to C that does kind of, like, have a flowing plot.
So I'd argue it doesn't make sense on purpose, but yes, I mean, as far as like,
but yeah, like, that's
there's
it's
a movie-
intentional.
Yes.
Yeah, it's an intentional, like, very sort of specific decision. Like, you know, some of the camera work in there is just incredible. Like, you know, there's
Oh man, the evil running through the woods, which is
the evil running through the woods is literally like 2 guys holding a plank of wood with the camera bolted to it and just running. Like, it just, that is just insane. Like, and all the money that they had, basically went on the film stock.
Yeah,
like
the beginning over the water. That was Bruce Campbell holding Sam Raimi over a dinghy as they're going through.
Yeah, I remember that as well. From his, like, honestly, there's the making of this film is just fascinating.
Guerrilla filmmaking, and I'm here for it. It's so good.
And if you ever listen to Bruce Campbell talk about it, like it's like
Memories.
listening to like that guy in the bar talking about his days playing like high school football, where I'm like, this really means a lot to you. And I don't mean that as like a knock against you. It's like, this was your world. Like, he has like, you know, I liked it when we can make him later. And we don't see like the hose behind someone's mouth as you're puking out blood. But at the same time, he's like, there's something special about it. I'm like, I could not agree more.
The flip side of this is, you know, it was hell. I mean, they literally stayed at that rundown cabin, and it got to a point where the whole crew was at each other's throats.
Oh yeah.
Oh, people were getting sick because it was cold.
The set behind them because it was so cold, and they didn't need the set anymore. So they're just chopping up the set and burning it.
Everyone got sick, like with something as well.
It's fine.
Yeah.
Like, half the cast like just pieced out halfway through filming, and then you get like the fake Shemp stuff where it's like literally stick a wig on, usually Ted Raimi, for, like as a background shot. But like, you know, you just like, you talk about like, you know, listen, like Bruce Campbell like speaking about it. Like, if you ever get a chance, like if you have Audible, get his 2 autobiographies that are on there, and he reads them as well. He narrates them. So it's basically like he's just listening to like a 8-hour podcast or whatever of him talking about his life in each one of the books. And there's just like the first one, there's a huge chunk of that which is about the production of the first Evil Dead film, and like because he wasn't just the actor in it, he was producing, he was helping out with his, like, it was one of those, it was like the real camaraderie between like everyone who was there. Like, you know, they were all kind of in this together. Like, everyone would do like bits and pieces, and like, you know, it got to a point where they were because they needed to like clean off the costume and everything, and like the only way to do that, like, because the guy, I can't remember whose truck it was, but someone was driving Bruce Campbell back and forth towards like some place that they were staying. It wasn't even like a hotel. It was just someone who was like on the crew or something, had like an aunt or something who lived nearby. So they just like, they'd go to that house every now and again just to clean up and everything. But they wouldn't let Bruce Campbell in his truck with all the fake blood. So he was just sitting on the back, but he's just covered in all this blood being driven down this country road. So there's like cars coming past, like seeing this guy sitting on the back of a truck who looks like he's just been like murdering a bunch of people. And then he'd just get into there and he'd just walk into the shower and just literally just stand under the shower with like the water and just to rinse all of the fake blood out of the clothes. Because it was just like Caro syrup and like red food colour and a bit of blue food colour as well to give it like that sort of like darkness. And that actually,
Bruce took his shirt off and it was so caked with that crap that it literally stiffened up and broke.
Yeah.
Back on.
That's another story as well. Like they put it on the on a chair just by like the fire that was when just to dry it out a little bit so it was more comfortable. And like he picked it up off the chair and like as he put it on, it just like I think it was down the back or something. It just went.
Insanity.
But I actually like as they talk about like in the sequence, it was nice to not have to like make all the effects in a bathtub or in a sink or something. But the blood and everything looks really cool. I think in this one the blood looks more realistic because it's got that sort of like more viscous, darker sort of like red look, and it becomes a bit too brighter. I think in like the second one. Like it's more like actual oxygenated blood rather than like just very red blood.
But I think okay, so let's dial this back because I think that kind of taps into something that like so this movie and we'll get into it next week. Next movie they're kind of weird to watch back to back because the second one is a lot of the first one, and then it kind of takes off to do its own thing. But I think the general feeling is that the first movie is more of a horror movie and the second one's more of a comedy.
Horror comedy, yeah.
I think the comedy in the first one comes from the bad performances.
I don't think it does. And like I was really trying to dig into it this time because I usually just watch it with that same idea that horror and then horror comedy. I think the comedies in this thing all the way throughout. I just don't think they were as talented at striking that balance as they were. And like my examples for that is like when the ghosts are trying to go after Cheryl, like the first time, and then she closes the windows, and then you get all the ghosty, like I love that. Like the camp is here throughout this entire movie. They're just not as good at showing it. But like
I'd forgotten that to be fair.
Like when they showed the chainsaw, like the chainsaw, like the zoom in, like it's all there. Like it's very campy and ridiculous.
Well, and too with the second one too, when you look at the demons are more disproportionate. Like it's more of a cartoony type of feel. Whereas these ones, it's literally caked on makeup. And what's great about that too is some of the effects. Like when you see like the makeup not complete, it adds another layer to the creepiness of this. Especially the first one. Like when she's like crawling at someone and like you see her real fingernail and you see where the makeup ends, you're like, ooh.
Yeah. Or like Scotty. Like when Scotty goes out into the woods and comes back just all gnarled, like you can see the very clear lines of like normal flesh makeup, but the makeup looks like the Deadite makeup. So it's like, oh, he's screwed. And it's like one of those like it's kind of an accident, but also kind of foreshadowing. Like, oh no, you lost Scotty. He's one of them now. Like you're toast. And like you kind of have that like accidental foreshadowing, which I really like. I enjoy. But let's dial this thing back. Let's kind of go through it a little bit. I know we've been talking for a while, but like
Joel, what are your thoughts?
Well, that's where I was gonna try to get Joel. So Joel, in the beginning of this movie, not knowing anything, and you're just watching what could presumably be like a Friday the 13th movie, were you surprised with where it went?
I want to be gentle because I didn't produce anything of value at 19 years old. And so they've got the ambition to try this. This movie sucks. I'm sorry.
No way.
and let me be clear. Like my problems with it is that watching through it, my only thought that should go through my head is these were people with a bunch of ideas for what cool scenes and horror movie moments would be, but nothing's cohesive around it to make it a film. this should have just been a series of shorts, like snippets of violence and weird in it, and I did not see much of a through line in it. There is no story. There's no story. They show up at the cabin, and there's like a tiny bit of film reel of the voice talking through some pieces of it, and then it's just calamity. And there's unintentionally funny stuff. Makes total sense to me why Bruce Campbell continued on and continued seeing success with this. I don't mean to piss in the punch bowl here. I do not enjoy this movie in the way that you guys have a reverence for it. I just don't. It's of all the horror movies we watched. I'm not going to say it's the worst, but it's definitely it's not starting off on the right foot for me.
Interesting. I'm interested to see where you go, because this is it, man. Like this is Evil Dead.
That's your same thought after 2. It's downhill.
Okay. Well, look. Now I've got a baseline of what to expect, and I think the big thing between this movie and the next recording is how do they continue to iterate and refine in a way that retains that sensibility, that campiness and humor, while still also telling a cohesive story, right? And that's what's missing to me in some of this right now.
I think Joe will like Army of Darkness.
I think so too.
I'm curious to see if you like 2 more. Like, I don't want to get spoiled on it now, but like 2 definitely has way more plot to it. Like, they have an actual reason to be in the cabin. Like, there's way more to it. I see what you're saying for this one, but like, I would argue, I would just, at this point, I'd say you don't like Grindhouse films at all.
Yeah.
Which is fine. Like, not liking Grindhouse movies is, I'd say, the norm.
I mean, like, yeah, put it in like in the 80s, there was a thing in the UK called video nasties, and basically if you owned these, it was a crime. Like, if the police found you in possession of these films on video, you could be arrested. And I think you could yes, yeah, it was a video nasty up until I want to say 87 was when it was taken off it, but then it was a really heavily edited version. Like, basically any of the violence was gone. It was very heavily edited. But it got to a point where, like, Sam Raimi actually flew out to London and testified, like, in court as to why there is actually artistic merit in this. Like, you know, it's not just it wasn't like this typical video nasty film, and they just ignored him completely. I mean,
I think was he, 19 then. 22.
He'll have been a bit older at that point. I think it was probably like 82 or something. They started shooting The Evil Dead, I think, in 79.
Okay.
It took them a while to actually shoot it and then edit it, because they had a lot of footage to edit as well. I think editing took about 6 months or something.
3 hours.
The first cut, I think, came in at
it was long.
Just under 2 hours, I think, and then they cut it back down to 85 minutes. But the actual shooting script was 65 pages, which, if you didn't know anything about scripts versus runtime, it's usually about a minute per page, on average. But yeah, no. It was kind of like in that it was like one of those video nasties things. Like, you know, I don't think it had a TV premiere until like the late 1990s or something. Yeah, I mean, it was seen as this horrible, like, disgusting kind of thing.
Which, to be fair, it is. Like, this is a horrible, disgusting thing. Like, I love this movie. This is one of my all-time favorite movies. I'm gonna heart this even more now that Joel hates it.
Me too.
Like, this is not Terminator Salvation. Like, this one is good, man. Like,
I still place this above Terminator Salvation. You know,
get back right now, friend.
But I mean, you know, I this might be partially expectation versus reality, and I did not realize the youth of the people making it. I knew about the budget and stuff, so it might be a too high of expectations for me thing where there's a lot of creativity in how they handle some of the violence. I could have gone without the tree rape.
Well,
yeah, I'm there with you.
And I think of this there's this consistent joke I see about some people's artistic visions, and it goes something like the artist's barely disguised fetish. And that's one of those moments where it's just like, I don't know. I feel like you're injecting a little bit more than needed to be here.
You mean like anytime
But-
you see a foot in a Tarantino movie?
Oh God! Tarantino making the point to make sure that he was the person in the movie to suck on Salma Hayek's toes. Yeah,
Hey, From Dusk Till Dawn
that
is
was
a great
weird.
movie, man.
It's good movie.
I kind of feel like that was a gift from Robert Rodriguez to him.
That's kind of what I figured too. But either way, like, so I get what I don't think Joel's wrong for not liking this movie. Like, this is not one that I usually. If I tell people you should watch Evil Dead, I usually tell them to watch Evil Dead 2. This is not where I usually tell people to dive in, but I still love this movie because of everything that Joel's saying he doesn't like. I like that there isn't this like very strong plot. I like that it's just a group of teenagers going to the woods and things just keep getting worse constantly. You never get a moment of like, okay, yeah, we're fine. Like, they do that to themselves a few times. You can tell they're just lying to themselves. Like, by the point where it's just Scotty and Ash are the only two okay people. Shelly at that point has been, I think she's dead. Linda has a hole in her ankle. No one's going on with her. And then Cheryl is still crazy and in the floor hole. Like, things just go from bad to worse to worse to worse. And it all has this like crackling under vibe of like, this is kind of fun to watch. Like, should it be? Like, why am I laughing at this stuff? Like, it has like this magnetic feel to it that I've never found in another horror movie. And I think that's why I like these movies as much, because there is definitely a different thing in the sauce here than the other ones.
It is relentless.
Yes,
like it's the relentlessness.
Yeah.
Like once it starts going, it just keeps getting worse and worse and worse. There is like you said, there isn't really a breather. There's one bit where Ash is basically talking to Scotty's body, but because he's he's dead, he's like trying to give him water as well or something. But apart from that, it just does not slow down or stop. Like throughout, it just keeps getting worse and worse and worse. And even that moment leads on to more sort of like torturing for Ash.
Yeah.
Because they all start laughing and going, he's dead.
There's a lot of interesting stuff happening in this movie. I mean, even visually, if you're talking about the blood hitting it was a light bulb in the second.
Yeah, the light bulb.
Screen for the projector.
Yeah, and how it sort of hints everything on it, right?
Yeah.
There's something about the acting when it's Ash or somebody else in a separate room and they hear screaming coming out of the other side of the house and they don't run.
Yeah,
it's like a slow realization something's happening and then creeping around it. That's the stuff that they act out a realistic sense of horror and fear in that, because if you're in this crazy house, you might think in the normal movie plot would be you're gonna run to the other room and figure out what's happening, where it's like, I am scared stiff and I'm hearing this terrible thing happening. Do I really want to go in there right now and see what happened? I think that feels true and honest, and I like that piece of it too.
And I just love the middle, like I guess we'll call it the living room that the majority of the film takes place in. By the end of the movie, it's a war zone.
Oh yeah,
Like, there's blood everywhere. There's bits of like scraps of wood and dust and just everything that is blood splatters everywhere. Like, that little cabin has had nothing but hell in it for a while, and like you really get that vibe as the movie goes on. Like, when they show up, it's not the nicest cabin in the world, but it's fine. By the end of the movie, it's like, this place is a hellhole, and you really feel that. And like that escalation throughout the movie, I think, is really, really well done. Again, like I'd say for anyone, let alone a group of 20-year-olds out in the woods, but like that, you really feel that journey from nice, happy-go-lucky to the end of the film, where it's like the evil is smashing through the cabin before it smashes in Ash's face. Like, there's
a claustrophobia to it, because like I said, the cabin's not tiny, but it's like these spirits are honing in on them from the outside and squeezing like a vice grip on these people.
there's something that I need to say too in terms of this movie, given that it's guerrilla filmmaking at its finest, is the fact that it can build tension without really necessarily building tension. Like that scene where Scotty's looking around. It's Scotty, right?
Scotty, yeah.
Yeah. He's looking around the bathroom, and that bathroom is rinky dink, but it's still the tension's still there. And even as the camera is moving in terms of the demons trying to find someone to possess, that's still tension building. I mean, it's one of those things where you can do minimal things, but still bring a lot of tension. And, the second one goes on this and does it a little bit better, but the sound effects, just to help build the tension, especially with the clock, I think is really unnerving. And so, really tapping into those resources and the art of filmmaking really makes this movie a standout horror film way ahead of its time.
Oh yeah.
The sound design helps.
Yeah.
A hell of a lot. Like the sort of the sound design on the Deadites.
Oh my
god! The possessed. It's just like there's just something
even when
like
they're
that scream. Like when it's what are they like? This is it when they stab it in the back?
Oh yeah,
and it's just kind of like screams, and it's just this weird kind of like almost like a reverberation, like a reverb type thing on the voice, like as it's screaming. It's just something really like off-putting and unsettling about that scream. Like it just and it's really, really great sort of sound design, especially like for a very like low budget in the 80s as well. Like you don't have computers and stuff you can do that with. You're going to be doing it with like I don't even know how they did it like then, like maybe like a synthesizer type thing where you're messing with the sort of the pitch and stuff like on the fly. But it just there's something really great about the sound design, and like even like the way that it's shot. Like there's this weird kind of like there's a bit in the film where it's when they get out of the car when they're trying to drive, when Ash is going to drive Cheryl back, and like they can't get any further, and like they get out of the car, and there's this the way that the camera's positioned versus the car. There's this kind of like eeriness to it, and it's like because they had the camera like tilted. So like people are kind of walking, and there's just something about it that just leaves you feeling like this doesn't feel right. There's something kind of weird and creepy about it, and it's that kind of like creativity that like, you don't expect that from like someone who's like 19, 20 years old.
The sound design part of it is important. There always feels like when it's the horror stuff or the spirits, there's almost a layering of sound. Mm-hmm. It feels it's a sound lasagna, right? There's just so many layers to it entirely. Those shots where they have that zooming towards the cabin, the spirits of the shot you were talking about earlier. I was always trying to figure out how they produced that sound. My brain was thinking like, okay, it sounds kind of like a motorcycle, but also like an industrial freezer with the door held open, and humming. And it goes back to that layering. And it's just like it's so discordant too. Throughout.
It's also got a voice to it as well. There's also this kind of like wow in the background of it as it's happening as well, like the wah. So yeah, it is like this idea of like layered sound. Like we talk about layered sound, like it's just a few clicks on a mouse. It's not like that. Like back then, you had to like literally record the sound and then re-record over it as well, like to layer stuff like that. And when you've got a post-production, like a minuscule post-production budget on that as well, like that's going to be a tinier fraction of that budget because you've got to pay editors to cut your film together. I think like one of the people who edited the film was actually it was either one of the Coens or both of them, and it was like they were like apprentice editors for someone else at the time. And like the basically the main editor person was like, look, I can't cut your whole film for you, but there's my apprentices here. And then that's how I think that's how Sam Raimi and the Coen brothers sort of kind of like hooked up and got a friendship going because they cut Evil Dead. And it is this kind of like almost like new wave of young creative like directors starting out. It's people talk about Scorsese, Spielberg and Lucas in the same way in the 70s. Like these were the kind of like this was like the 80s version of that almost. With Raimi and Coen brothers, and then like Sam Raimi and Don Coscarelli met up for some reason, like there was, going back to Phantasm, there was like Sam Raimi wanted to be in Phantasm too, He wanted a cameo, and like they couldn't sort of like arrange it around because he was busy shooting Evil Dead 2. But so like the closest he got was the bag of ashes is like Sam Raimi. That's the name on the bag of ashes in Phantasm 2. And then there's like I think Don Crosby was trying to do a dual joke with Ash. Wait, Ash? Hey.
I mean,
it strikes me everything is so dark visually.
Oh yeah,
too.
Yeah,
You know, and I know a lot of horror films, especially older ones, kind of do that. But even compared to the lights of Halloween or Friday the 13th, in some ways, like the tone visually is so dark, almost like there's hardly any lighting source whatsoever.
No, there wasn't.
And
yeah.
I mean, but
it also doesn't feel. It doesn't look like really like you can't see anything. It doesn't. It doesn't feel like you're struggling to see what's going on though. It feels almost like it's designed that way. Like there's thought and like there's a thought process being put into the lighting of the scenes as well. Like and it's using it to create mood. Like you said, Joel. The darkness in like you've got darkness of tone, and then like the sort of the use of the shadow as well in there. It's adding to that thing, and that's what it like. It does have this. There is more creative. I can't think of the word. Like basically, there's more creative decision making being going on than just a standard what. The video nasties, like I mentioned, like they would literally just like stick a camera, make some violence happen, stick some naked people in there. Like, that's what video nasties were essentially. They were like proper, like grim, like, like one step above porn in terms of like, there's some actual creative decision making going on in this film, in The Evil Dead. It's not just like stick a camera and make like a lot of gore and sex and violence and all that sort of stuff, and we'll just put it out as a film. Well,
here let's take a second to talk about some of that, because like we're dancing around a lot of it, but like there is something that I think elevates this movie beyond all of this stuff, beyond the filmmaking, because filmmaking to the general audience doesn't really count for much. Like that's sad to say, but like the best filmmaking goes unnoticed. So what is it about this movie that makes it not a video nasty, which sounds weird to say with an American accent, but whatever. Like that makes it not that. And to me, it's the Deadites. There is something different in this horror film than every other horror film, and that is the Deadites. They are cognizant, they are mean as hell, but they're also kind of funny. And they're taunting and they're torturing.
They've got personalities. They're not zombies. So like I remember someone like before I'd even seen this film, like people would refer to this as a zombie film. And like when I actually watched it, I'm like thinking to myself, it's not a zombie film, because there's a personality there. There's actual characters in these Deadites. Like the Deadites with like they taunt Ash. Oh, like how much they taunt him. They're like, "Hey Ashley,
love boy." Like
and it's such a different way of toying with your prey than what we're used to. As well, the Friday the 13th, it's he's stalking. He's an animal, sort of circling around his prey. This one, the Deadites, they're at the time of their life doing all of this, and they're like the cat batting around a mouse until they decided they're done having fun with them, and now it's time to go in for the kill.
That's a really good analogy. Actually, it is. They are a cat playing with its food.
Oh yeah,
it's and it's just like, I could kill you, but I'm not gonna. I'm having too much fun here. Yeah,
like
and I think that's why they don't kill Ash straight away, because Ash is giving them a lot more enjoyment than the other ones did. Like because he is just kind of like he's trying to be the good guy.
They see the emotional and physical psychological toll that they're getting from him, because this is the credit of Bruce Campbell, who is really the only actor out of this group. His facial expressions really shows these demons like we are really messing with this guy, and then it kind of rolls into part 2 when it becomes more slapstick, which makes it 10 times better.
Oh yeah, and Bruce was so ready for that. We'll get that more next week because that's just ridiculous. But like this one, like for me, the moment I knew I loved this movie was when Cheryl's in the thing and she raises it up and she starts doing the taunting song, like the "We're gonna get you."
Yeah.
I just I'm so sold on this movie, and just like the way that like they want to mess with people. Like for me, Deadites are the secret sauce in Evil Dead. Because if
I can
this
see
was
that.
just relentless people in a cabin getting murdered, I'd feel the same way Joel does about it. Like I would be like, no, because I don't need it. Nothing is the point of it. Like there's no reason to watch this. Putting the Deadites and their personality in it, to me, not just like brings it up to watchable, and brings it way past watchable into one of my favorite horror movies ever. Like there's just something amazing about that, and the fact they pulled it off, like as these 20-year-old nothings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like they funded this film basically from like fundraising from dentists and doctors, and like on the form, like Bruce Campbell talks about, like basically on the form, it was like, you know, the form itself was saying, "Do not invest in this; that you will lose all your money." Like that was the legalese they had to put on it, basically, because they consulted like one of their sort of like parents' friends was a lawyer or something, so like they drafted up all the paperwork, like made it all proper and everything. But on the document itself, it basically says you are most likely you are going to lose your money on this. Like, do not invest in this. This is a bad investment. Like, and it just goes. I think what it comes down to is that they had something to prove and they wanted to prove it. Like it was a progression for them. Like, you know, they'd been making films since they were 15 or something. So the background of this is like Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell were, and Rob Tappert, I think, as well. They were all in high school together. So Rob Tappert's one of the producers, and they started making these films like and Sam would draft in his friends. Bruce Campbell was like the actor in the films because he was the best looking of them. This is literally how it's described in his book.
Bruce
like, you know,
wrote that?
Yeah, maybe. Sounds like something he would say. And that's how it started though. And like, so the thing that really sold a lot of investors on it though was the small short they did. I can't remember what the hell was it called now. Night in the Woods or something like that, and it's kind of like a condensed version of the Evil Dead film. It's like 12 minutes long or something like that, and
the short film that Raimi did for his film school.
Yeah.
So
was that what I think it was?
No, or was it as a reel to show people to get invested?
It was it was a reel. It was a reel to get things. Because I don't think Raimi actually stayed in film school very long. I think he dropped out very quick because they weren't making enough films or something.
Yeah.
But they did that for like $1,600 or something like that, and then that was what they'd show people to. They do like screenings for like potential investors as well in like this little cinema, and it was shot on 8mm, and that's what they wanted to shoot on originally. And the reason the budget was required was so big, like $90,000, was because they needed to afford 16mm film, and like so when you said like all the money is on screen, it literally is, because all the money was basically put into the film stock. Like very little was spent on anything else. Like it was just, and it is just a testament to, like, you know, really creative people.
Well, and see, this is where I'm gonna jump in real quick. Is I just looked myself, is the consistency of these films. These films know what they are, and they don't change moving on. The Rotten Tomatoes scores on these, none of them are rotten. But here's the thing: you very rarely find one movie, they're there, let alone multiple movies in the same series that have consistent scores that are close together. So for this one, it is certified fresh at 86, an audience score of 84. Next week,
I'm calling personal foul on the Rotten Tomato stuff. I'm sorry. These movies, Rotten Tomatoes did not exist when these movies came out, which means more likely than not.
But they still look at reviews from way back when.
Movies.
They still look at reviews from way back when.
Bullshit.
But yes, Rotten Tomatoes is not the best, but I'm just talking about consistency between the critic score and the audience score.
Sure.
Well, that does it today for.
I thought you had more scores you're going to go for. I was looking.
Oh yeah, I can say them. I have them pulled up. Next week is 88 critics, 89 audience. This is the worst dip, which is understandable because the critics would hate this. Army of Darkness is 68. Audience is 87. The show is 99, not certified. Audience is 95. And then the remake is 63, critics 64, audience. And then the newest one is 84.76.
That seems about right.
I mean, it's just straight, like, it knows who it's playing to.
For what it's worth, the Metacritic scores are lower, but also about the same. So
Yeah.
I see what Joel's saying, but there is some commonality between them, and I think Metacritic is a little better than Rotten Tomatoes.
Good movies, audience like them.
Yeah, I mean, Rotten Tomatoes is very binary, right?
Yes.
So I think that's what goes into part of it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to be interesting to see if my opinion changes, like looking at these films with a more critical eye. But I actually think Army of Darkness is the best one. Like, that's my favorite one. Just because of like where it goes, it does go in a like almost unexpected thing. Like, because there is this progression thing, so like you kind of like you expect that's what's going to happen in the third one based on like how the second one ends. But what it does with it is just like I love the hell out of Army of Darkness.
I mean, beyond Groovy, almost all the Ash quotes come from Army of Darkness. Like,
Yeah.
the stuff Ash is known for saying all come from Army of Darkness.
And it's a character progression. Like in the first one, he is just this scared guy who like doesn't have a clue what the hell's going on. Then the second one, he's like he's getting a bit more battle hardened, and then by Army of Darkness, he's fought these things quite a bit now, and he's turning into that sort of action hero.
Yeah,
and it is just there is that progression of character. Like it's another thing of like, which is why I think these films are so great. Is that progression of character? It's kind of like he's the Reggie of this franchise. He is like he starts out this kind of like clueless guy who gets pulled into it. He then like sort of starts to get more and more experience as he goes, and then he just becomes this kind of badass Deadite killer / tall man hunter.
If he started as a side character, I'd agree with you, because like Reggie is not the main character of Phantasm, and he slowly but surely becomes the main character. But I see what you're saying. I don't think you're wrong.
He's got a similar character arc, is what I'm
yes.
saying. Like the sort of like the way the characters very like how they progress and how they evolve throughout their respective series. But yeah, you're right. This is almost like what would Phantasm be like if Reggie was the main character from the beginning?
Yeah.
So for those of us on the call, my computer just restarted the update. Things are going nice. That's here for my tech.
Update
All right,
so nice twice.
Let's start moving to the end of this thing. I know we've talked a lot about it. This is kind of like to Joel's point about there not really being a story. There's not a ton we can really dive into to break this thing down more. But when it comes to the wrap up, where we usually just do quotes, with a movie like Evil Dead, you got to do quotes in favorite kill or I'd say gory moment, because they're not just kills that are super awesome to look at in these things. So we're going to do both of quote and gory moment. Can be a kill, can just be something gushy. We might lose one or two of those when we get to the TV series because it's not as consistently crazy as the movies are, which makes sense. It's a TV series, but there's still quite a bit to chew on, so we should be okay, but we'll see. I can go first for this week. My quote, I've already said earlier, just because I couldn't help myself, is the killer if you can, lover boy. I love it. Everything about him having to deal with his deadite girlfriend is some of my favorite stuff. We get the real quick cutty chainsaw sequence later that like becomes like the staple of Sam Raimi of like the quick cuts, slight push-ins, and all that. I love it. And that kind of starts with that killer if you can, lover boy. And then my favorite goopy moment is going to be all of the people turning into the demon things at the end and the stop motion and the face melting and the hands coming out of the bodies and ripping them to pieces. All of that, which is just like, what is happening now? Like, I had a somewhat grasp on the violence in this movie, and now it's just gone off the rails, and I don't have a clue what the hell is happening. And I liked it for that. That was fun. They're not able to ever burn the book again to hurt the Deadites, but it worked once, and that was worth it. The one time it worked. Good job.
I'll go.
Well, that's me.
Go, Matt.
We go in a clockwise.
I don't have that.
Well, you should.
Go, Matt.
So, like, my favorite quote is this the line itself is just so ludicrous. I just found myself laughing. I don't even know why I laughed so much at it, but it made me laugh so much. It's just where Ash goes, "You can't bury Shelley. she's a friend of ours.
Sorry, quick side note. I had to bring this up. I loved this franchise's reaction to someone dying is bury them.
Yep.
Like,
Yeah.
you know, there's police. Like, you need to let people know. You always just bury them and just jam the cross to the ground.
Yeah.
Also, in this movie, they are clearly just burying them in piles of straw.
Yeah.
There's no burying in the ground. It's just
Yeah.
like, you see them, and it's just like, okay, you might as well be lifting up a hay bale with that shovel you're using.
Sorry, I love the thought process. Like, no, just bury them. Okay.
My favorite sort of like goopy, gory moment is it's basically the same thing as like what Brian's is. The stop motion thing I think is so cool. But my favorite actual moment in it is the bit where the piece, like the big sort of like goopy fake blood thing just like smacks Ash in the face. And my favorite and my reason for that is because, like, you know, when they were growing up in high school, Sam Raimi was the kind of friend you had who would like constantly torture you. Like, he'd like jam in the middle of a class, he'd jam a pin in the back of your neck to make you scream and stuff like that. That was achieved by Sam Raimi having a big thick bit of fake blood, like in a ball, and just pelting, like just pelting Bruce Campbell in the face with it over and over and over again, like take after take. And I just love that, like just knowing that behind it, knowing that there's Sam Raimi off camera just going it just makes it so much, like it makes me love that moment so much, like so much more. It's so good.
All right, Joel, I know you don't like the movie, but what's your favorite quote and gory moment?
Gosh, I guessed the card right. Yeah, truly amazing. I just like that. That's a fun scene where they're all playing with the cards, and the one friend is just screwing them by lying and saying that they guessed each card right, and then they pan over to the other one actually answering it right, and it's because, well, she's about to kill him.
Our first Deadite sighting.
Yeah, it's a very cool moment as well as that, because it's just like it's done kind of subtly as well, because it's just like they're there with the cards and then you just hear the voice.
He's just talking, and he picks
off
up
the side, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, hang on a minute, and then the camera like sort of like pans around and you see them like just like reading off every single card, and like they again with the sound design, like the way they've sort of tweaked the voice a little bit as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't have a favorite kill. I'll go back to what I mentioned before, the moment where the blood's dripping down and changing the color tone of stuff. That was just a very cool visual effect.
All right, Ryan, bring it home.
So mine is when they're looking at the Kandarian dagger, and he goes, "This kind of looks like your old girlfriend." And then my favorite kind of gory moment is the stabbing of the ankle with the pencil. I thought, ooh,
that's a good one.
Yeah,
nice and juicy as that.
That's ahead of its time.
Yeah.
And it just keeps going. They keep coming back to it. She's
twisting it and turning.
Yeah, it's the twisting as well, like all that blood just like blood, that gloopy blood.
Here we are.
Linda, move your foot. Just move
it away. Your children's gone at this point.
Okay, so we've done it. We have covered the Evil Dead, starting off our Evil Dead franchise, which I'm very excited to get into. I'm really excited to see where Joel goes on this one. It's going to be a journey. I'm hoping it ends with him being a fan.
I feel like a real island right now.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like Joel might get more appreciation going back, because like I think it is one of those films, like the more that I watch it, like for me personally, the more I watch it, the more I really like it, and like because like seeing where it goes as well, like there's more of that, getting more of an understanding of that, what's set up here, and then also knowing the like the behind the scenes stuff really does help the fact that like you think about like it's a bunch of kids with very little money making this thing that like went on to be hugely successful.
Yeah, well. We'll find out. Time will tell.
Be honest. Do you think I'm going to go back and watch these movies?
No, because it's you.
I'll give you a maybe. Who knows?
I got it.
When your kids get into high school, you have a little bit more time on your hands. You might turn it back on.
It'd be a good way to get Kelly to walk out of the room.
Oh man. I really thought we'd have Kelly on this one. Like I thought for sure she'd be a fan. It seems so her style. Let's do some very quick round of plugs. This show, every other show on the ATH Network, athpod.com, or YouTube, where we were doing After the Hype. I'm hoping After the Hype will come back. The fires and then everything else here kind of got in the way of getting back in that rhythm, but we should be starting up again here soon, hopefully in March is what I'm thinking. That's it for me.
Afterthoughts Book Club, Super GG Radio Video Games. That's about all I got in me today.
Oh, no. Watch Joel stream Sekiro, please.
Oh, yeah.
I need more people watching
Please watch me hitting my head against the wall.
Hey,
like
man.
5 hours on one
you
boss.
beat the drunkard. You did it. I was so happy I didn't turn off before you did it. Like, I'm about to turn off, and then you beat him on the time. I'm like, all right, I'll watch one more.
Just the whole time, you and Arona giving me, like, tips on how to do it. And then I beat it antithetical to how you described.
Hey, man. Win's a win. You've
Win's
seen
a win.
Fast and the Furious. Doesn't matter if you win by an inch or a mile.
Winning's winning.
That's some sage advice from Mr. Vin Diesel.
Hey, Dominic Toretto. Don't give Vin Diesel any credit. All right. Any other plugs? Ryan, I'm sure you got a couple.
Yeah, you can catch me on the Front Row Network where we just covered all things Oscars, and then you can catch me on Front Row Flashbacks.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you everyone so much for listening. We will see you next week with Evil Dead 2.
Dead by Dawn.
Favorite movie. Dead by Dawn.
Shop
Evil
smart. Shop S-smart.
No, that's Army of Darkness.
Doesn't matter.
For some reason, I want to say Evil Dies Tonight.